Ladies and thank you so much, Miriam. Thank you so much. This is historical, really. So we're going to have a panel discussion about media and information literacy and its importance now more than ever. And where do we go from now on? Where do we see ourselves as Uganda, as a country? How do we see this playing out for children in different schools? How do parents embed this as they teach their children how to use media? How to tame their curiosity, to tame their children's curiosity. As the panel comes up, being moderated by Josephine Karunji, who would want to show you one last video with the stakeholders being part and also really discussing how important media and information literacy is in this day and age.
When I think about the media in Uganda in relation to children and young people, I think more about what we're not doing or what we're overlooking in terms of getting content that fits into the cultural aspects and also that fits into the kind of people that we have in Uganda. So I find that a lot of the media will have cartoons or will have programs that have been picked from elsewhere that might not necessarily fit what is happening here in Uganda. So you find that kids are picking up a lot of things and then they're coming back to their homes or to their settings, and what they're picking up doesn't really match with what they're finding.
So we organized a conference last year in March, the Media and Information Literacy Conference. And during that conference, there were many experts, teachers, media development experts, who actually asked and demanded for programs specifically to strengthen media and information literacy among kids and youth. So this is all how it came about and how we started thinking about doing something for kids.
MIL literally translates into media and information literacy. This is a set of competencies. With competencies, we look at skills, knowledge, attitude regarding information. And when it comes to information, we are mostly looking at forms of media, from traditional media, including TV, radio, and print, to social media and other online platforms where people gather. So MIL4KIDS, this is a program that introduces children to information and information spaces.
We then started a small survey. We asked teachers, pupils, and also parents in primary schools around Kampala how media affects the life and what are the needs of both the teachers, the parents, but also what are the needs of the kids and what kind of skills do they already have, where can we build on, what can we build on. So this responses from that survey gave us basically the foundation for the curriculum that we now developed, which is based on the needs of strengthening media and information literacy for kids aged 9 to 12. It's really based on a play-based approach. It answers to the intrinsic behavior of children. They learn through playing, they learn through exploring and experimenting, and this is what the curriculum is all about. So it's 26 sessions, each session is 60 minutes, and in each session the kids learn very, very playfully and interactive to understand media, to use media, but also to produce media in a balanced way.
I would say that every day should be media or digital literacy day. And the reason is that we spend almost half of the day just on media platforms. Either it's on social media or you're on your computer doing your work. And that even for children who are, especially in the pandemic, studying from home, they spend a lot of time on different platforms that are all media related. It's timely then, therefore, that we should make sure that the children who are consuming this information on the different platforms are literate enough to decipher what is fact and what is fiction and what is of benefit to them and what is not, and also for them to understand that there is a whole world out there that is creating content with different interests.
So for me, my dream, coming from an educational background myself and the experience I had in the kindergarten, and also based on the needs that I saw within the children, I would love for kids as part of the training for teachers and for kindergarten teachers and for everyone who works with kids. But also I would like to see it as part of the curriculum in primary schools and in secondary schools, so that children from a very early age on know how to responsibly use media and how to be responsible media consumers.
Once they are able to try out some of these different skills, once they're able to try out some of the different equipment that we offer them, then they're able to identify aspects of their lives.
Earlier this month, we organized a workshop where 12 MCI fellows and staff were trained to become multipliers, to work with this curriculum and to share their knowledge and their skills with teachers, with other youth workers, with everyone who is passionate about strengthening media and information literacy in kids.
Media Challenge Initiative is catering for media literacy for kids through creating spaces that allow young children to come and interact with trainers. With our partnership with DW Academy, we trained 12 trainers in MIL4KIDS, which has given them knowledge, information, tools to train kids.
I think it is very important to be good role models, first of all, for whether it's teachers or parents. Talk to the kids about what kind of media you consume, why you consume them. Talk to them also about that there's information that might not be true, that some people purposely put out information that is not right and that is misleading. And also tell them and show them where to find good information. Nurture their curiosity in learning how to understand how media works. And I think that is the best you can do. And then, of course, book our curriculum and let it come to your school or to your youth club so that we can do the rest of the work.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Okay, before we start, maybe just to get a sense of how many of you in the room have a child, and not biological children, but you have a child in your care, you have a child you influence, you have a child that spends their time around you. Show of hands. Okay, just about everyone. And I think for me, in speaking about media information literacy for children, it's very important that we have adults in the room, because a lot of these children spend a lot of their time with the adults. And if the adults are not informed about what we are doing here, then we're not really going to get a lot of headway with the children if the adults are not participating. My name is Josephine Karunji. I'll be moderating this panel, and I will introduce my guests. The young lady sitting next to me is a celebrity. I'm sure you saw her earlier on in the videos. Show of hands, we saw her. She was the news anchor in the videos. If we could just give her a round of applause. Fashion designer, the last time we spoke. I don't know if that has changed. Has it changed, Kabi? Okay, fashion designer. Next to Gabriela, we have Marion Apio, who is currently a fact checker with the Debunk Show and a media and information literacy MIL trainer of trainers. Marion, it's good to have you.
Thank you, Josephine.
Okay, so yes, please. I noticed our appreciation levels are quite low this morning. When they launched the, meal, the clapping was a bit hesitant. So I'm not sure if we're not excited. I'm not sure if we're not happy. I don't know what we are feeling. But on behalf of all of you, I will give Mariam and Abbas and the MCI team a big hand clap. Okay, so we're going to start our discussion. Good morning once again, and welcome to this panel on media and information literacy for kids. Where do we stand and where do we go? For me, this conversation is important because media in all its forms is hard to real and other critical questions. We know that authors of media always have an agenda, whatever it is. Children should be able to question and question some more. So I'm thankful for this conversation happening in the Global Media and Information Literacy Week. I'll start with Gabriela, who is next to me. And I want Gabriela to give us a sense of what media looks like from her perspective as a young lady. Gabriela, when I say media, what comes to your mind?
Becoming a journalist, because while children get to learn how to become journalists, they'll get to tell their friends, and their friends will also become journalists, and the world will become peaceful.
When you say journalist, what do you mean?
A journalist is a person that delivers news, for example, secrets.
Okay, like like when you were reading news earlier, that's journalism, right?
Yes.
Okay. Which media do you consume? What do you, when you talk about media, which of those areas spend a lot of your time on?
I think education.
Educative material?
Yes.
Okay, where do you watch or read, or where do you get the educative material?
Becomes more and more interesting.
So you're thinking about media having a positive impact. Okay. You were also telling me the other day about how you learned about the bombings from the media. Do you remember?
Yes.
Do you want to tell us? And COVID, remember? You want to tell us about that? How did you learn about them?
I watched it on news.
You watched it on news.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of your time watching news?
No.
Okay. What do you spend a lot of your time about the MIL curriculum? What does it look like for children?
Thank you, Josephine. So I think Miriam has really highlighted most of what this curriculum is about. But from the perspective of a trainer, you get to, one, understand kids, how they're going to interpret, how they're going to access, how they're going to analyze, and how they're going to really use media. So this curriculum positions you or tells you, can you switch back to that child way back? So you get to now, okay, think like a child. You'd stop imagining that everything is obvious. Whereas it's obvious for me that I'm seeing myself on this screen. Abi here is asking me, is everything we are watching coming from there? And so for you as an adult, it becomes a bit easier, but for children, access, use, different. So the curriculum is conceptualized in a way that it's not real classroom work that we get to learn or that the kids get to do in the normal curriculum. No, it's more of entertaining and fun, and we get to analyze 4 different aspects of media. So media and me, what is my identity as a media user? And also media and my relationships, how can I responsibly use media and ably create meaningful relationships, but also make friends and understand that my privacy as a child matters, what information I share matters. And we get to really share this information with the kids in a way that they get to understand, not understanding privacy directly, but through the games and the energizers, they get to be like, oh, okay, that's what you meant. And so, yeah, that's the curriculum.
Okay. I remember there was always this debate about parents putting their children on their social media platforms, updates every day of my child has grown, my child's first day at school, and so on. Do children now get to question these things and say, do I really want to be on your social media platforms? Do we give them a sense of understanding about what all of that means in this curriculum?
I think for starters, where we are headed now, it's a really regulate kids' use of media. It's very hard for a parent to say, we are going to stop you from watching, because 247 parents, maybe they're at school, and maybe they're not at school, but they're hanging out with friends. Maybe they're not with friends, they're somewhere else. And so what this curriculum does is, what skill set can we empower the kids with so that, yes, they can question, but also decide, what kind of content do I want? But we also know that kids don't get to decide at the age of 0 when the parents are in the hospital, when they've given birth to them. And so at a certain level, let's say age 9 to 12, they then get to maybe, I read about this, I learned this in the curriculum. Is that the kind of information I want to put out there? So, yeah.
Marion, I noticed that the curriculum starts from age 9 and going onwards to about 12.
Yeah.
Why are we starting from 9? I know that children these days from age 4, and parents, you bear me witness, age 4, 5, they're already asking all kinds of questions. They have tabs, they have access to your phone. The minute you get home, it belongs to them. Why are we starting later as opposed to earlier, catching them early?
I think the age 9 to 12 is a very interesting age. That's the age where you see curiosity at its highest level. As a trainer, I would think so. My interaction with the kids, 6, 5, 8, they're still really dependent highly on, mommy, should I do this? But Abi here is going to really do most of the decision making at this level. And we have that aspect of the curriculum where we look at media and my curiosity. And in the classroom with these kids, they're very curious, and they're going to ask questions that you never expected that they were going to ask. And so I feel like, yes, at that level, they are able to question, not necessarily, but with such platforms and with these skills, they now get to actually understand that, yeah, this
this is something I want or this is something I don't want, but the design of the curriculum resonates with that age because they will transition into teens, and we have a curriculum that is now prepared for kids of 14 and 17 years, which Miriam will be talking about maybe in the future someday.
Okay, I hope when Miriam comes to talk about it, she'll also talk about if they have plans to, before they got to the 14, they can come back to, a few years earlier than 9 to sort of prepare children, because they're already handling technology and they need to have some kind of, guidelines or assistance from the elders who are also still learning how to work with the technology. My next question to you, when we speak about media information literacy, what is the difference between that and digital literacy? I think it's very easy to confuse the two.
I think it's a matter, MIL is both, but digital literacy basically focuses on the digital platforms that are currently taking a lot of people's time and energy. So MIL encompasses more than the digital platforms that we have today. To the traditional media that is still very relevant, that is still very existent in our communities, in our homes, in our houses, to the aspect of skill set, mindset, perception, and so much more, practicality. So digital literacy will teach you ICT. These are the different ICT tools that have come. I think I get to be introduced to that like campus, not even senior one. Senior one is just really learning a desktop computer, which wasn't there even in the school. But now MIL gets to say at any age, I should be able to at least understand media, at least have an idea of what media is. It's basic kind of information that any person affected but also be impacted by it.
So if I get you right, MIL is more encompassing. I mean, I know that for digital literacy, even now, kids in kindergarten have computer class, but it's not targeted to what MIL is about. So it's more specific to ICT, just learning how to use it. Let me come back to you. Let's come back to MCI for MIL classes. Coming from MIL classes, right? What do you learn? What is your typical? How long is this class? 1 hour? How long is it, Maria?
So the sessions are designed to be 1 hour.
1 hour.
But for Abby, we basically spent a whole day with them, and so yeah.
So, Gabby, what are you learning when you come here? What have you learned from the time you spent here?
First time I came here, I felt very nice because they teach you about journalism. And while you learn about journalism, you get to know more about it, and it inspires everyone.
So I'm thinking we're beginning to shift our plan from fashion designer to journalism. Are we? No?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. Do you think this would be more interesting, for example, if we had more young people reading it, reporting it, talking about it?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think would make the difference?
How?
If you had more young people, why do you think that would be more interesting for you?
Because if other children see other children on news, they'll also want to be on news, and when they also be on news, that all children will become journalists.
Okay. If you could create content, if it was up to you to decide what next we're going to watch on TV or listen to on radio or read in a newspaper or any other media outlet, what content, what information, what education, what do you think would be important to put out there?
The world shall be a better place.
So you'd create content that would make the world a better place.
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Gabriel. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Is there anything you'd like us to know about media information literacy for children before we let you go?
But you are wrong.
How?
When you say laptops. Even children in P1 use laptops.
I hear you. I totally agree. Children in P1 now have laptops and iPads and smartphones and so on. So what would you create that they could watch on their laptops, iPads, and smartphones?
News.
More news. So Gabriela is more interested in information and entertainment, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Gabriela. And thank you very much, Marion. Marion, I'll ask you to stay while I bring up the other panelists. I thank you so much. I was worried about that. Is from UNICEF. He's the Adolescent Program Manager at UNICEF Uganda with 15 years of experience in the development sector and international affairs, working with NGOs, international organizations, foreign affairs, consulting companies, and the United Nations. Thank you for joining us. I'll also call up Mr. Derek Kamanzi, who is a Capacity Building Officer, National Children's Authority. Derek is the Resident President, Uganda Social Work Student Fraternity at National Workers in Uganda, NASU. Thank you for joining us, Derek. Okay, and finally we have Moses Irumba, who is an administrator at Quentin Junior School in Chibuli. Thank you so much, Moses, for joining us on this panel. So my question to this panel, my questions will not be as formatted as one question to each of you, but really I think that each of you has something to add to whatever question I ask. So my questions will be general. But in thinking about it, when I hear speaking about media literacy for kids, I think working with your kids and other kids to give them deep critical thought to what they are consuming. And that means you're not, looking over their shoulder at any point in the day, trying to see, are they watching the right content if I left them alone for 5 minutes? It means they can make informed decisions because they understand that they must be mindful of what they consume. So we're empowering kids to make the right media choices. To start our conversation, what do we understand by media? In this case, for a lot of us, media means TV, radio, newspapers, online platforms. But I know there's more to it than this. So who would like to start with what we are talking about when we speak about media in the context of media information literacy for kids? Any takers? You're looking at me, Kamanzi, so I'll allow you to start first.
Okay, to start with, to me, media is a platform through which information, education, and communication is created and also disseminated. And maybe looking at children, media is a very important platform because what the media says take as the truth. Like what I'm trying to mean is that there is a way how media affects the social construction of reality. I remember, I can give an example, like during the time of elections, there is a way how the media depicted Uganda as a, I don't want to use that word, like as a violent kind of...
At war.
Yeah, like at war. And everyone was like, tugenda musiko, when there was nothing even like on ground. So media can, like especially in the area of child protection, can be a very good ground to nurture and also empower children and other stakeholders like parents. And also the general population, the Ugandans, who by the virtue of the constitution, especially Articles 17, which talks about the responsibility and it's the mandate of every Ugandan to ensure that children.
So in this case, when we are speaking about media, are we just speaking about the platforms I mentioned? Are we including billboards into this conversation? Are we including the posters that they get to see as they walk along the street? What exactly is the media that we're talking about? Anyone else? Yes.
Thank you very much. I think in my understanding, if I could get back into a setting of a little one, that how they see and how they hear what they see or hear. I know that it is clear to someone. Who tells them what? How is it told to them? Where do they get it from? Okay. If you're talking about information. Because I entirely even believe a school in its own is media. I have got a challenge, especially with children that are in that category of age, that is 9 to 12. Because that you were asking previously about why the curriculum for that age. Because children below that age, below 9, want to know things, and they've got specific people they ask. If it is not mama, papa, or someone within their closest range, the parents. Now, when it gets to the age of 9 onwards, you're not sure of whom they ask. They're going to ask the parents, they're going to ask teachers, they're going to ask strangers that you don't know, because they're now exposed more on the scope of whom to ask. These little ones remain home, and it is easier to control what they see and what they engage with. So, understanding of media, in my regard, and with the little ones, is exactly what they see, how they see it, where, and what do they do with what they see and hear. Thank you very much.
Just a quick one.
Sorry, Mariam, before you come in, maybe just to ask that when you're done speaking, you turn off your microphone to avoid the echoes so that the next speaker's microphone is the only one on. Yes, Mariam?
Just a quick one. I think as a journalist, I would think media is an outlet. From a kid's perspective, that means wherever I'm getting information from, outside the interpersonal communication or intrapersonal communication I'm having, that outlet is going to be media. So it could be mass media, it could be just a certain tool, but what information and data we choose to give out on that outlet then gets to define what kind of information we're giving out. So yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you for all of those explanations on what media is in this context. My next question, and this one I'll particularly pose to you, Marion, because you're helping us set the stage for the rest of the discussion. Help us understand the context of the people on this panel. How does it affect? How do they come into this conversation? Ideally, we should the panel than adults. So if we have adults here, why are they here? And how is MIL important in the work that they do?
Okay. I'll try, because MIL is complex, to be sincere. In fact, when you engage with kids, they get to question and even challenge you. So like, oh, we didn't see this one coming. But MIL for kids, we look at 4 aspects in the curriculum. We look at media and me. So as a media user, as a child, who am I when it gets to using these outlets, when it gets to using these platforms, when it gets to using these spaces, when it gets to using these tools like everyone else has mentioned. But also, what is my identity on these platforms? So we get to actually tell them that, what is your social media profile? What is your media profile? And they get to design what kind of information they want to put out there. And so media and my identity gets to now put us as parents in question of what do we tell our children? How do we empower them back home there, that they go out there on these platforms and still be able to actually depict either those strengths or weaknesses, but also what do they watch that they get to mimic on these platforms. And then we have media and my relationship. And so like I mentioned, we get to now wonder, these platforms are networking platforms. We all know that they bring different people together. People who are coming from different places, people who are coming from different worlds, experiences, and they have different backgrounds. But as children, you don't know that because maybe nobody has taken time to, take you in. And so as educators, we get to find ourselves in the near future, how can a kid use that information to be able to use the platform and say LinkedIn, for example, and they position their skill sets out there so that they're able to get a certain job or get a certain opportunity. And then we have media and my curiosity, where they get to learn. So there are fiction movies that kids watch, heroes and superheroes, and they want to be Captain America, but they do not know that, like Bella mentioned, Captain America is just some guy who has been taken through certain training, and there are certain camera angles. And so they even get to mimic some of those in the sessions that we get to learn. Now there is also media and me, my relationship, my fun, and then curiosity, entertainment. I'll give an example. Advertise every day, King's Education Center, King's Education Center. And I thought maybe I wanted to be a king in the kingdom, or sorry, not a king, but a queen. But what's up with King's Education Center? Why are they making noise? So when I got a sponsor who actually asked me, where do you want to study? There's nothing else I would say except King's Education Center. Now that's the power of media. But fortunately, my sponsor didn't take me to King's Education Center because I go to Mbale and I joined Grace Primary School. And the stories now I heard about King's, Grace was 100% better than King's Education Center. But if you had the advert about King's Education Center, you would want to fly to go to that school. And so media and my fun gets to really impart knowledge of advertising, marketing, and so much more. It's just communication that people have structured and have put out there. Now, why this panel is that we are key influencers when it comes to media consumption. Either you are a teacher or a parent, or you are an organization that can influence a policy, or you are an implementer who can actually say, now is the time for us to have this conversation. So I'll end there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marion. I realize how passionate you are. So if I allow you to go on, you might steal the show. So you spoke about you were in the village, and I guess my question is not just for you, but for everybody. When we're launching this here in Kampala, does MIL extend beyond Kampala? Does it go to King's Education Center? Does it go to Mbale? Does it go to, does it extend beyond that? And I would like to know if there is a plan for that, or are we just focusing on, the kids around here?
Okay, I will speak because, again, I get to represent the implementing team. But we have a plan, and this is where key stakeholders like UNICEF, Save the Children, USAID, teachers, and other non-government organizations and parents get to join us to see how do we multiply us, the MIL trainers, but also have teachers join us on board and have other educators join us on board. So we have an idea of MIL goes rural. And we can't do that without funding, for example. It would be nice for an organization that nationally implements programs for children to say, now is the time for us to see different rural schools or other schools in Kampala implement MIL. Or USAID saying, okay, now is the time for us to also think about, or UNICEF saying, now is the time for us to think about them. So we have a plan to have a MIL center here at the hub, where MIL can go rural, MIL can go central, MIL can go north. I don't know what UNICEF thinks.
MIL can go to Kings. Yes, Mr. Kushmat, if you can come into, she passed the back to you, looks at you very intently. Perhaps there's a plan there that you'd like to share.
That's usually when, as a UN staff, you come to panels, that's usually the challenge, when the word goes to funding and then directly to you. But let me take up the challenge and share maybe a few thoughts. I think not necessarily thinking about plans, funding, but from the perspective of the concept. MIL, firstly, congratulations, of course, core areas is the education. I think we all know in what context we are. And if we put now ourselves in a context of 2 years schools being closed, or COVID bringing globally the focus of education going beyond the usual curriculum, usual school, going much beyond, I think we are in a historical period. The period that will change things that will not be back to 2019. So from that perspective, if you look to MIL, I would relate it to 2 key terms. One, to skills or competency. I love the video where the competency was explained. In education, we talk about a lot about competency-based education. You don't need to give only knowledge. You don't need only make them to get good grades in exams. You need to give them skills that can influence their attitude and behavior. So I think the first core term is skills/competency. But the second term that I think, you are gurus here of media. We come from a very humble place. We serve children from different perspectives. But if you allow me to say this, the second term I would link would be the voice. It's not only consumption. And we use the word children, adolescents on purpose in UNICEF. And what you're talking about, the age group, this is actually adolescents age group, starting from 10 to 19 for us adolescents. The second decade of life, we call it, or the second chance. But children and adolescents have a voice, and we adults do not often take them seriously. But I think the second term that I would really link it would be the voices. Look at them as agents, as those who can tell us through MIL what they need and us responding to them. So that's the angle of expansion. But when you look at what in the last Global Economic Forum, most of the employers said that the 4 skills they want in anyone to come in the job world are this. So I think it's beyond journalism. It's beyond media in a sense of the news consumption. It's about voice and skills, and it's those skills that can prepare children for any profession to come. So that's the concept of expansion. We can talk more about how we are definitely eager to see the partnership opportunities, but I think that's the sense we need to get. And the last point, if I may to say, I think I love your concept of going to rural, but I would really encourage us to think about those children who are outside of school. We have in the country, between the population of 6 to 18, we have 3.5 million children who are outside of school. We have also 13 years old who are going to primary school. So they would fit even your curriculum in terms of the age. I think the age is a fluid concept these days when we look at the context of Uganda. So I think going rural, going everywhere for in school and out of school to reach the most vulnerable children, maybe that can be the concept of expansion. And once we agree on it, we can talk more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Marion, these discussions can be held separately after this conversation on how to take it further. My next question to you, and since you already had the microphone, when you speak about your support, education support to the government, when we speak about MIL, and you've touched on how you know what picture it takes, I think we don't call it MIL. But when you explain it, we know that's what you're speaking about. What does that support look like? How are you seeing it integrated in the education sector for Uganda? Okay, not in the last 2 years, but in the years before the last 2 years.
Maybe I can start it from the perspective of someone who works in that field of supporting the government. I believe our co-panelists and teachers can give even more vivid response to that. In education sector, what we do, we worked in few, let's say, pillars of the work. One, we work on early childhood education. Second, we work on quality education. Third, we work on the broader adolescence education, let's say, where we try to bring children back to school. Those who help children to transition or support the government to create a system where children transition from primary to secondary, which is very low rate in our context. Within the quality education, we believe that content that goes, curriculum that goes to the school is essential. But essential with it also the teacher training. to have the capacity of teachers, to have the stakeholders in the school to create enabling environment. So within that, I think the word curriculum in that language is very big, if I'm very honest. Change of curriculum takes many, many years. But I think we need now, what we see the context in Uganda, we need to be opportunistic to see many areas. One, of course, we love to enter this type of, let's say, if I can call it, it's part of the life skills education. You're bringing some skills which are important for life. So we are eager to see this life skills education curriculums like MIL to be part of the curriculum within the school, which is a long shot, but it is the most sustainable way to go. At the same time, I think we are seeing that there are a lot of co-curriculum activity spaces. This is where you have a bit of flexibility to go in. You can test things. You can reach a lot of children. We have school clubs in every school that creates that space. We have drama clubs, other clubs. Why don't you have meal clubs? Why don't you have a life skills clubs there? So I think the long-term thinking would be looking both within the main curriculum, co-curriculum, and as we said, most importantly, outside of school platforms, those youth centers, out of school clubs that you said. And in that way, going in parallel in different directions, I think we can both reach the most vulnerable children, but also create, support the government in having the system that will be sustainable.
All right. Thank you very much. I think it now comes to Kamanzi and also to Moses in terms of what does MIL look like? Where do we stand from the social workers' perspective, but also from the educators' perspective? Where does MIL stand at the moment in Uganda? I'll start with you, Kamanzi.
Okay, thank you so much. I think for now, we have a lot of differences, especially in terms of the demographics, rural versus urban. In urban areas, people have some access. Then when you go back to the rural areas, people are really rural, as the name sounds. And then still...
Sorry, when you say they are really rural, I sort of struggle with that because I believe that even in the rural areas, there's a way teaching can be done to accommodate MIL, and, you know, that we look at MIL in the form of fancy.
No, like I'm trying to give you what's on ground currently. I know MIL is very important for all the children. Currently, Uganda has close to 60% of the population is children. Children are more than adults. But I think the government has to come in. There is a way how the government has neglected this issue of MIL. It's now you see like such initiatives are being funded by, like initiated by private organizations. But when the government comes in, I think it will be much better.
What has been your experience, Irumba?
Thank you very much. You were talking about, thank you. You're talking about the current status of MIL in Uganda. I'll refer you to the most recent scenario where we have been having lessons conducted virtually. I'll use this example of you will discover that all children have been catered for, depending on the policies that have been in place. But the common media that has been used in villages or rural settings is radio. You've heard of children learning from radio. And
I've heard of, I'm
yes,
not sure.
Exactly. That's what I was saying you've heard of. Now, you have also heard and seen children in urban areas attending lessons on TV. I've seen schools with Zoom. I've seen schools with... what I'm talking about is media and information literacy. Is everywhere and is needed. In fact, in the state we are in today, it is far more important than ever before. We are turning so much to speaking more of advanced media, the social media, the internet world, because now that's where it is uncontrollable. because the others you can control. I can switch off my radio at home. I can hide the cells for those in the villages. You will not listen to the radio. But if you're talking about a phone, every 5, 6 people out of 10 that you meet, you'll find them with a phone. And at least out of those, you find a bigger number with smartphones in most areas now today. So it is very hard. Even if you tell your child that now you cannot access my phone, right now, you put the password. By the time they move out, they have met 3 or 4 people that have phones they can, uncle, help me with this. I want to play a game. And it is now something that you cannot control. So we need to be looking more into that scenario of how do we work with different organizations that have come in place to handle this whole aspect of regulating and helping the children understand what they need to know in the aspect of media.
Thank you very much for that. Maybe just to hear perspectives from someone outside of Uganda. Jennifer Chiberu is online and she's joining us on Zoom from Total News in Kenya. I'd like to invite her to share her experience training to find out what that looks like. Jennifer, if you can hear me, we'd like to hear from you now. Jennifer? All right, as we get Jennifer, maybe somebody will alert me when we're able to get through to her. I'd just like to hear from all the panelists here. How do we get children, kids, is what the term we've used for this particular conference. How do we get them from being just consumers of media to actually become creators of content that we now start to consume? And I'm asking this question to you guys, but I'm going to also alert the people on the floor that we can come to them for any questions at any point before we close the panel. But for now, and I'll start with you, Chris. Not be consumers, but also be creators of content.
That's a very, very good question. And we have a term in a very broad term used, participation. We say children's participation in decision making. It's a beautiful term, but not well understood sometimes. I think one of the ways we can do is really, what you started saying is the giving the necessary skills. But the more important one after that needs to come, otherwise it will not happen, is creating a platform. And platform is a very big word. You used earlier the word space. Space, platform, it can be in rural. It doesn't mean only online. It doesn't mean only radio. It can be even a program that you can do, the MIL can do, and then you can take the voices out. They can give you one maybe small example of how it works in the rural areas and what UNICEF supported the governments to do, or the different organizations to do in other countries. We had a program called 1 Minute Junior. There is even an organization with this name that you can Google and see. And the idea of that was to really bring the knowledge and skills of learning how to tell the story, but also telling the story to the rural area. And 1 Minute Junior means 1 minute story by a junior. Yeah. And how it happened in the rural areas, when you encourage school to have a club and teach them, then the voices which they can do with the phone recorded, the voices would go out. And in one of the countries where there was a conflict between 2 countries in the border area, what happened was that schools brought children from 2 conflicting communities. They both sat in a learning club. They learned MIL and they learned how to shoot, and they shot some messages of peace and why peace and friendship is important. And these messages were transmitted, shown in 14 communities in the villages, both in the other side of the border and this side of the border. It's not only about the training you do with 30 kids and then you finish. It's about, they were shown throughout 1 year after that. And the impact that story had in changing the narrative, because some children in that community, they were told every day by their parents that the other side is bad. They had a feeling of otherness and hatred. After this, there was a survey that showed that the level of tolerance increased because the narrative of otherness turned into the narrative of seeing friend on the other side. So this is an example of a platform that can be established in a very rural area with the support of such platforms in schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's amazing how much effect children's voices carry. We just never give them the opportunity. Jennifer, we can see you. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for joining us online.
Thank you so much. Sorry for I stepped away from my computer.
That's fine. That's what happens with all Zoom meetings. But it's good to see you. If you can share your experience training children in MIL in Kenya, we'd love to hear from setting. What's it been like for you?
Thank you so much, the MCI team, and congratulations for this step. We've been doing this since 2017, 2018. We started with a few children, about 10. We just wanted to test the concept to see if it's viable, and it has been very, very fruitful. So we started with, wanted to know what is the interest, are children interested in media, and what is the understanding of the past initial. So we did a study, we did a study, and we asked children, what is your understanding of the media? What makes you happy about the media? What are some of the aspects of the media that you like, and what stories make you really sad? And one of the things that we found, my colleague, our trainer is in this call, one of the things that our children told us, they don't like sad stories. They don't like, because every time they go to watch news, the stories are very sad. So we told them, we're going to teach you how to do your own stories. And you could see the excitement on their faces. And we showed them the whole, how to collect stories, like the 5 W's and the 4 W's and a H, how to fact check, because a lot of stories on there are fake news. We showed them how to do like simple fact checking using their phones, or just to check, is this story real? And then we teach them on how to develop like social media posts, on those ones for Instagram, or those ones on YouTube. So we showed them, and so in the last 4 years, we have trained about 150. COVID-19 messed us up, because our target was to be able to have trained 1,000 children by the end of last year. But last year we were not able to do a lot of trainings because of COVID-19. And this year, because of the mess up of COVID-19, it messed up the school calendar. So it has really, we don't have time during school holidays to train children. But the process, the lessons we have learned is children want to learn. They are eager to learn, and they're very fast. In fact, they will teach you some of the things. Like now, some of our kids told us, Discord, you should go and watch Discord. Discord, you can be able even to create your own news channel. So some of them have already created their own news channel on Discord, and they're able to tell their stories. So when you teach them, they come with very good quality stories that you'll be shocked. And some of the stories that we publish, they're done by children. Of course, we do adult there, but at the bottom you'll say this story has been done by a child, and they're very good quality stories because they already understand and they're able to question. Okay, they'll start questioning and you'll say, Miss Jennifer, is that story real? I don't think it's real. Look at the link, the URL, it looks ish, it doesn't look real. I don't think the president said that thing. They'll start selling you some of these. So, and one of the things that you have learned, for children, it has to be very practical, okay? No lectures. So there's no lectures. So like, for example, we hold regular forums, like our partners. I've seen our partners. She stood earlier and she sang a very funny song, Hadija from High Sounds, Uganda. So we hold some like last week we had a design thinking workshop with them on how can we expand this child participation beyond what we do in a small way, and then I got an invite from Abbas. It was I wish I knew Abbas, you're doing this, because I would have interviewed for the design thinking workshop. How can we involve children so that children are the ones who are leading? Because most of the time, even for us in the media, I'm accusing myself as a media personality. When you are doing stories for children, you are asking them, you are telling them, this is the story. Can you do it? But for us, we want it to be child-led. It's you as an adult. You are not the one, it's not the other way around. And that we have seen that a shift in the parents we work with, we've seen a shift in the way children think. The thing that they're empowered to think, like, I'm empowered enough to be able to do this. Okay. So it has to be practical and it has to be child-led. I know I'm speaking too much, but it has to be practical and it has to be child-led. It has to be child-centered and in a language that is simplified to children's level. So don't bring big words like fake news. We tell them, what are the lies that you see online? So because you say fake news, you're like, fake, what does fake mean? No, you have to make it very, very simple for children. Like social media, we have to also, when you're doing this thing, you have to be able to bring in issues to do with safeguarding. How are these children being kept safe online? How they being kept safe as they go to do these stories? Because they will be very intuitive and they'll start doing these stories. You have to tell them these are the safeguarding principles that you have to take as you go to tell these stories. And then give them a platform. They just don't train. And one more minute, sorry. Don't just teach them. I love what the UNICEF person said earlier. He said something. It's not just about a voice. Yes, you have trained them, so what? Give them a platform. Give them a platform where they can be able to express themselves, a platform where they can be able to print these stories for themselves, but a platform where they can be able to engage influential and policy makers. Like, for example, I would have loved to see a child in that panel, a child asking questions about this particular meal, okay? What the child asking, can we go to rural? Okay, can those questions, because we want children to be able to hold these guys accountable. It's not like simple. It's not what we call in our office pink and purple stories. These are very simplistic stories, but hard stories. Issues to do with budgeting, issues to do with corruption, issues to do with political goodwill. Those are the kind of stories that you'd want our children to be able to do. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to speak. Just give me a minute. I want my colleague Collins to just talk a little bit about the content. Collins?
Wow, thank you very much. Sorry guys, I'm a bit in the middle of some trees, and so don't worry. My name is Collins Orono. I'm a trainer at Mtoto News, and I'm also heading the news department. And it's interesting to work with children. And some of the things that we train children on, as Jennifer has mentioned, we train from fake news to writing their own stories, to broadcast their own stories. And it's just interesting because, children are very, very curious people. And whenever you're training them, it's not a one-way thing. If you make it a two-way conversation, that way you'll benefit, or you'll be able to train them. But if you make it a one-way conversation, it won't work. And that is what I've learned. And Jennifer has mentioned another thing about, children children don't like sad news. I remember when I started training children, and when I started engaging children, I joined Mtoto News. I had no background on children. And the first several months, I faced a challenge. And this was when we used to, children used to look for news. They go online and look at media, other media platforms and all that. And maybe sometimes I will say, oh, okay, maybe we see defilement cases, we see maybe a child has died somewhere. To do this, I used to approve the news that they want to do. I get any negative story about a child, I felt so emotional. And how they approached me, it was a very, I got shocked because I didn't know, children maybe don't have these specific things that they want. Now from there, I changed my way of doing things. I was very keen on approving the kind of stories they want and all that. And it has worked because I allow them to do what they want and bring it to me, not me asking them to do what I want. So that is very, very interesting. I'm very happy for everything that has been shared here, and I'm sure that I'm even going to implement some of the most important things that I've learned from this team. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm looking forward to maybe in future, I'll be very happy to partner with you guys. We make sure that, we do more and more for children. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, and thank you very much, Collins. Your natural background is a nice twist to us in a conference hall. So
don't worry about that. But two things that have come out for me, among many others that they've said. Number one, that the children are now able to tell this is fake news by looking at the URL. And adults already struggle with that. Adults will post whatever they find on social media, and they're not checking that. But for kids to be able to see it and point that out, I mean, that speaks a lot to the kind of generation that we are building with MIL. But then the other thing was the positive spin to news. And a lot of us know news is news because it's negative. It's that there was an accident and people died. It's not that there was an accident and people survived. Nobody died. And I got that from my conversation earlier with Gabriela, not when she was here. People made her nervous. You didn't clap enough for her and make her feel, appreciated. But she told me earlier about the kind of world she'd like to see. And she was saying something about if all the people who do bad things are put in a place and told to do good things, and that could be a media story. The positive that the adults don't focus on. So I think those are very key things to think about in MIL and also in journalism for the future. I would like to open this up to the floor now. If we have any questions for the panelists, or if we have any comments and things to add to the conversation. Right. We have women's participation, and I'm always glad for that. So please, someone could move the microphone for us. Please give us your name and where you come from, which organization you're from, or if you're here as an individual.
Good morning, everyone. Can I stand or I stay seated? Much. My name is Hadija Mwanje. I am the founder of High Sound for Children. High Sound for Children does media for children. We have been doing it for the past 4 years. Amazing group to work with. Through the stories that we tell, we do media clubs in schools. And we've been able to interact with children, introduce them to media. Jenny was talking about Hadija. We've done a lot with Mutoto News because they are a little ahead of us. And you see the kind of stories that children look at. We've been at meetings, and every after meeting like this one, you tell them to write what stood out for them. And you will be shocked that by what they look at vis-a-vis what the adults look at. So I am happy with what Media Challenge and DW is doing. We have at least now more voices on media and children. This is something that we needed way back because we see children exposed to media more than ever. And during COVID, it's worse, because we no longer have play spaces, children are in fences and all that. So the only thing that gives them company is either TV or a phone. Now they're accessing lessons on Zoom. We've had parents complaining of children logging onto Zoom but surfing other, platforms. So this is very crucial and timely. I only emphasize that let's encourage children to speak more. Let the children be the leader in this, because it's always good to have them speak. Sometimes we do not get the feel. For me, for the years that I've worked with children, sometimes what we think is not what they think. And for me, just to thank everyone, what UNICEF talked about is very crucial. It's beyond media and seeing the stories, but critical thinking. The skills that are passed within. At High Sound, we also do a lot of empowerment. We've seen children now being able to stand. After COVID, when we went back to the schools where we work, children went through a lot. You could read the letters. We still have them pinned in our offices. And you look at the letters and you're like, oh God, how do we support children? Now, how many children have that opportunity to speak out? So we even merge it. Thank you so much. Thank you, MCI. Thank you, DW.
Right. Thank you very much, Hadija. And just to say that Hadija was once in the journalism field. I don't think you ever really leave, right? So you're still there, and she's translated that now into the work that she's doing. So it's good to hear from you and what your organization is doing, Hadija. You wanted to add something to what she said, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Adija. I just wanted to add on the aspect of letting children speak more. I think we need to appreciate the fact that we adults are mature and serious. The little ones are innocent and genuine. Even more real than ours. We can fix up anything. Children do not fix up anything. I was listening to the little one who was here before. If it was an adult answering the questions that she was being asked, there would be a point where you fix up an answer for that question and the situation. But you discover that she was very open and there was nothing like a lie, nothing like fixing anything. In fact, if we empower the little ones, I hope even fake news will be out of this world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Just 1 minute, yes.
Also, to add on his point, there is a difference between meaningful child participation and tokenism. And what we normally see in the media is tokenism. They tell children, they give them work. You know, there are radio programs on radio stations. At least every station has specific time for children. And in most cases over the weekends, they normally pay more attention to those programs. Like, you'll be on radio, what a child is saying, you'll be like, my God, is this a child or an adult? They just give them information, then maybe they tell them to cram, then sometimes they fail to get the whole script and they miss some point. You even realize, I'm sorry to say this, but if you remember the inauguration of His Excellency, the President, there is a child they brought for a poem. I was shocked. The child started from history, independence, 1997, 62. Then the child came to Tito Okello. Museveni, you are so good. I was like, is this a child? What's this? But we should understand that children have a voice and they should be given chance to air out their views. If these views are not given attention, then that's tokenism. If they are put into action, that's meaningful child participation. I'm sorry, I will eat 1 more minute of yours. Prior to elections, we came up with this idea, as the National Children Authority, the Children's Manifesto. We are already running child rights clubs in schools around in 80 districts across the country, where children come in, they discuss issues concerning them, they learn more about their rights and responsibilities. So when the elections were in high gear, we are like, why don't we engage children? Children have views, they have ideas, they have problems, and they don't vote. We all understand that according to the Constitution. But political decisions affect them, whether you like it or not. Now schools are closed. Do they have anything to say? No, it's political decisions. So we engaged more than almost 10,000 students across the country. And we captured their views and put them directly. The way they were saying, we walk long distances to school, we don't eat food, we do what? Then we also gave them chance to draw, to also share their stories through drawings. Someone draws, a parent beating, what? So we put them in this book and we shared with all political aspirants, especially those policymakers, the presidential candidates, and also the MPs. You can see here what a child drew.
Kamanzi, we can't see it too small, but we hoped you would have come with copies to share with us so that we could carry it home and reflect.
Currently, our copies are done, but when we get more, we shall with these children.
Wonderful. I hope MCI has had. Okay. Marion, before you come in, I just want to check with the MC about how we are doing with time. I know we've already used our hour. I just want to know how much time she's able to give us. Please, we are looking at you with begging eyes. Thank you very much, Madam MC. We'll take, let Marion, because she wants to add to the point that has been made, and then we'll take the next comment or question.
Just a quick one. I think many people are really saying, we have this happening, we have this happening. But a quick question, I think, for us as MIL multipliers is who's telling those stories? And so I think that's where we really come in to say, we have this space. We are a group of young people who are set out to say we want to share these skills and also impact them in other educators, in teachers, and other people who are really leading some of the organizations that are around the country. And we're saying we are here and we are available to see that kids are, one, empowered to tell those stories. So, like we often say here, that journalism can make the world a better place. There are many things that are happening that children are doing out there, but nobody's telling those stories. And through the MIL curriculum, we have the ability to build their capacity and do most of the things that many people are saying they're doing, and we can't really wait to start. So yeah, just really wanted to put that out there.
And we're excited to see what this will bring up when the curriculum starts to go out. Yes, Abbas, we'll take the next question.
Thank you, Josephine, for the moderation, and thank you to the panel. My name is Immaculate Nakanjako. I am here to represent the Early Years Foundation of Uganda. But prior to my work with the Early Years Foundation of Uganda, I was a nursery school teacher for 8 years. And when I hear you say that those children in the early years are not ready for media and information literacy, I went like, no, you don't say, because those children, from experience, I know they are ready. Those children are capable of more than you think. So I wanted to ask if it's possible for you to engage us that have worked with these children, with them, and have seen that they are capable of taking in media and information literacy, if you can have a way of engaging us so that we can see a way that we can have this program start for children from as early as 3 years. Recently, a 5-year-old called Molly Wright gave a TED Talk. Very many of us in this room have never given a TED Talk. A 5-year-old gave a TED Talk. There are so many YouTube channels that are for children that are 2 years, children that are 3, children that are 4, and the content on those channels is but because I am a teacher, I have so many other young children around me. So if the children around me are asking, Teacher Ime, we are seeing these children on YouTube. For us, where do we stand? What do I tell them? The people that tried to teach media and information literacy said you're not ready. No, these children are ready. Let us consider them.
And thank you so much, Teacher Amy, for that point.
Yeah. Then also, I wanted to raise, as the Early Years Foundation, we are an umbrella body for childcare practitioners and for nursery school teachers or early childhood development practitioners within the country. So we are an umbrella body that has teachers, that has schools, that has pediatricians, that has psychologists. And because of that, we reach a number of schools, we reach a number of practitioners all around the country. I have come to learn that the difference between an urban child and a rural child, earlier on we talked about taking this program to rural centers and someone said these children are different. The difference is that the ones in urban centers are getting more exposure. The ones in rural areas are not getting as much exposure. And the only thing we can do to change that is taking these programs to them. And there is no other difference. They are exactly the same child.
the context of an urban child, they will speak about Akasha Mall. The child in the village will speak about the well because they know the well. So let us take these programs to them. Let us not see them as disadvantaged children. They are not. All they are waiting for is for us to think of them as we are developing such programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How many more hands, if we could just see?
Can I make a proposal?
Yes.
So we were earlier supposed to do breakout sessions, but given the number that we have, we really don't have to do breakout sessions. So we are proposing that we get the views.
So what you're saying is you're giving us more time.
Yeah, just...
thank you very much, Abbas.
20 more minutes. Thank you.
I thank you.
You're the journalist. I'm just...
I thank you. But just hold on before you go to Joseph. There, I hope that, with the mask, you can't really tell. But I assume that's Joseph Beanga. Before you go to him, just to know if there's any response from here, or Miriam, if you want to speak to what she said, or if anybody wants to speak to it, would be happy to hear maybe some commitment, some, Miriam? Yeah, it would be great to hear from you.
Microphone running.
Thank you so much. And I agree, I cannot agree with all the points that I heard today, especially about giving children a voice. This is also something for us at DW Academy. Media and information literacy is not only to understand and analyze, but it's also to act and to create media. So if there's an opportunity, and I would like to direct that to Abbas, actually, is it not possible to have an MCI Kids Radio or Kids TV? Because you have... As Marion said, you have all the space here, you have the equipment, so this is something that could be possible. And I also agree with the comment over there, kids below the age of 9, of course, are equally important, and it would be amazing to have this. We had to start somewhere, so we chose the group that we found was, for us, most doesn't mean that we exclude other age groups. It's just a starting point. Thank you.
Yes, Abbas, please speak to that room you were showing us earlier about how it's a multi-purpose room.
Yes,
and how we can change it into anything we want.
Part of the activities that the MIL trainers are going to be working on include a TV show, which is in the offing. So having you all here will help us to contribute to that kind of programming. So Marion is leading the team, so we'll reach out and organize conversations on how that could be the best product for the different age groups. Answered.
Thank you, Abbas. We'll now go to the next question or comment. Mr. Oh, okay, great.
Okay. Hope I'm being heard. Thank you. My name is Ivan Kavandize. I work with 40 Days Over 40 Smiles Foundation. That is 4040 if I abbreviate that. We have a literacy program that targets children in primary school. And this is very timely for us because especially looking at the past 19 months or maybe past 2 years, if I'm to make that accurate, is that we've had many kids out of school. And I think we kept talking about kids in the urban centers, kids in the rural areas, but most of them are now facing the same challenges. We work with children in less well-to-do communities, in schools around, in the division of Makindye, specifically in Kampala. And you find that the challenges that these kids have, like she said, the challenges that these kids have are the same that the other kids have. So if I there's a child that has access to a laptop, to a Zoom class, to all these facilities, but the kid from the school in Chiburi doesn't have that, yeah? The kid in these schools, less well-to-do communities, don't have that. And the past 19 months, these kids have been in the community, learning from whichever media platform, yeah? So this is very timely for us to be able, and I'm very keen on understanding how can we not regulate, but how can we curate content that specifically targets kids for learning purposes, like Abel said, but also entertainment that is educative. Because I think, like Teacher Moses said, young kids are genuine and need to get content, like safeguarding. I think someone mentioned that. How do we safeguard this content? How do we make it accessible and all these nice things? But 4040 is one of those organizations that would like to heavily leverage this opportunity, this platform, reach out to more young people with our Angaza program, which is a literacy program, and how we can create a platform to give them a voice, but also to empower them to be able to ask questions, to be able to engage, to be able to be literate in all the ways that they can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's amazing to see how 4040 has, grown from, where it's been and to just be able to reach all these branches. And Moses was just speaking about how he's worked with you guys. So we just want to say thank you for the work that you're doing with children. Next question. Yes, but as you speak, I just want to let the people online know that they can also post their questions on the chat group. Not forgotten. Yes.
Okay, my name is Brenda Asime. I work with Child Fund International, and I'm glad that I'm going to be part of this event. I think that what is being done with MIL is brilliant. And what I'm thinking about is not so far from what this gentleman and that lady just said right now about representation and the work process being mostly in remote communities, and where the medium of communication for most of these children is through the media that most of these children consume is sometimes a few of them radio, or maybe once in a while they'll come across a newspaper. Or the other way they consume information is probably if someone is moving around in the village and they have a megaphone, and that's how they're consuming information. So I'm curious about how this curriculum is going to be translated into a setup so that there's actually representation. And what I'm excited to do is, she mentioned that we'd just get a copy of the curriculum, so I'm excited to actually go back home and look through it and also share it with our education specialists at Child Fund, and to essentially explore how some of these things or initiatives that you mentioned in here can be incorporated in our programming. Because at the time I feel like media offers, facilitates, creates a platform for children to speak up and to kind of own their voices. I think that is very important. But then also, again, how is that translated to children in the rural communities or remote areas where they are not as exposed and having all these resources available to them? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Abbas, as you hold the microphone, maybe you could just clarify, are we all walking away with a copy of the curriculum?
Oh, no, not today.
I sense a bat coming.
We're really happy to share. We have the emails. We are happy to share the soft copy. And I think also the other thing that we want to organize after this event is another meeting that will target especially organizations that are working with children, so that we can have like really a deeper engagement than back and forth right now.
All right, thank you, Abbas. Marian, do you want to take the question on representation?
Yes. So the way the curriculum is designed is very diverse. You don't need a real camera for you to teach a kid how a camera works. You don't need a real radio studio for you to teach the kid how the radio studio looks like. When we were testing the curriculum, we tested it in 2 schools. For now. And in these schools, we didn't really go with any. Now, we did not carry real phones or carry like any media tools to take for the kids to learn, or we didn't even go with like real social media platforms to tell them this is how Facebook is. Through the games and entertainment and songs and just really language, like Jennifer said, we get to bring kids to understand how to navigate the media. And so the first step for us as educators was, how do we make sure the kids get the knowledge? Now, practicality then becomes the next big step for us to say, okay, we've taught them, And also the way we do the curriculum, this is not schoolwork. It's not normal, usual, come, good morning, children, welcome to SST, I don't know what, those things. But it's really more of, hi guys, so who wants to tell a story? Now imagine you're on radio. Have you ever seen a radio? No, for me, my dad hides his radio, he removes cells, and he doesn't want us to see or to listen to anything. Okay. Who has seen a radio that can help our other person, let's say Benit? It is designed to embrace each and every school set, regardless of whether you have an amazing space like this one. But where we come in is that for those spaces that are advantage enough, like the media space, we can do more. We can now give the kids the voices and say, okay, do your own content. And for those that can, we can go to them and get those stories and still be able to air them. So I really wanted to say that.
Thank you very much, Marion. You spoke about diversity and how you're enabling that, but you also spoke about radio, and I was going to go to Joseph Beyanga, who is from KFM, and I wanted to know, Joseph, before you ask your question, since you already have the microphone, what does representation, diversity look like at KFM for kids at the moment?
Hi, good morning, good afternoon. How does diversity look like for kids at KFM? KFM is an adult contemporary radio station, so kids, I'm sorry. We talk to 25 to 35-year-olds, so we don't talk to kids. That doesn't mean that kids are not exposed to KFM because the parents are listening. So where the diversity comes in is that we try as much as we can, keep it adult content that speaks to adults without being offensive to the kids or misguiding to the kids. Which takes me to I don't know if I've answered your question, Joseph.
You can proceed. You can proceed, please.
Thank you very much. So when I was just, I'm sorry I came late, but the bit of the conversation that I caught is a situation where we are caught in and inheriting some of the things which society, institutions, and the government have created for us. And we are trying to see how do we get out of this dilemma. If you look at any media, and I had my brother talking about radio stations and media targeting kids with programs on the weekend, I would say not all of them. If I ask you the top TV stations, the top 10 radio stations in any region, do they have a kids program? The answer most likely is no. How do we look at kids in the mainstream media? Kids, you would do something that speaks to kids just purely to get an advertiser, but it's nothing intentionally designed for kids. If you go to a developed society, I believe you'll find media that even when they're giving out spectrum and frequencies and all that, there's one that is reserved for kids, just like you have some which are reserved for community, just like you have some reserved for the religious communities and all that. So I think where we are standing, we can create the curriculum, we can do everything, but then if we don't make efforts to address the institutional injustices, most of what we seek to do, we speak to the kids who are already almost covered, the kids who can access the internet, the kids who the parents can easily guide and say, this is a safe website, don't go that way. They're the ones who will cover. Should I call it legislation or institutional regulatory framework or whatever, to make sure the kids are actually, one, protected, two, content is created and is designed for them to speak to them, to make a difference. Three, to stop looking at kids as commercial commodities. Because at the moment, the media does really a lot of that. And my former, are you my former or my colleague, Hadija, who does stuff with the Raising Voices? I know that there's some program. You are wrong. You've got to discover that actually your kids have been exposed to that content while you were away busy somewhere. But that's what kids have been feeding to. That's why most of our kids have been raised by TV and radio. And when you listen to some of the songs that we play for the kids and the content from the soaps and all that, our house helps, watch while they are taking care of our kids. I think as we chase the money, as we chase the career, and we chase so many things, we are forgetting about our kids. And I don't know, if you are ignoring your kids, then where are you making the money? So we need to think of many ways of how we can restructure the media spectrum to make sure it is friendly to the kids. That was my point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Just to see show of hands, how many more comments we have from this side of the room. This particular side has been very quiet. So, but before we take the next comment, yes.
Thank you very much. I'd like to add on what the previous speakers just said, the gentleman from KFM. We shall discover that most of us that have been involved in using the current media, the most outstanding media, the social media that we are having today, that's what I want to talk about more. You discover that there was nothing for us to read from. There was nothing for us to learn from. The negative, whatever impact that would have on us and our lives. There was nothing for us to read and understand that the Facebook works like this, Instagram does this, if you do this, you're going to become addictive, the addiction is going to do this. I believe it is the same thing that we're talking about, that now if we have understood that children that we're having today are going to go into the same scenario if we do not help them early enough, it means that now we have to take this story to the next step. We even now to engage the policymakers. We need to reach out to people who make decisions for this country. How are children protected from this unavoidable technological advancement? Because we cannot just sit back. If at all we have begun this hard work of how to handle the media literacy and information literacy within the kids, then we have to go as far as the policymakers if you have to remake a stamp on a bigger scale. I don't know whether that's better.
It does. I mean, you are the one who is in this sector more than the rest of us. So it's good to hear your point of view on that. Hadija, are you adding to what he said, or to this particular point? Okay, then we'll allow. Is your point related to this one?
To this one.
Okay. All right. Since you have the microphone, and that is where it all started from, you speak first.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Fatuma Namkose, and I manage a messaging platform for young people within UNICEF. It's called Your Report 8500. Okay, so just to add a little bit, or I don't know if I'll be igniting another discussion on what he has said, is I think as we open up these wonderful platforms for children, media information literacy for kids, then we have to bring into the discussion safety of young people while they're online and offline. Because, you know, like she said, it's inevitable. It's there now, okay? So this is a point at which I would encourage colleagues to, you know, bring other partners and colleagues who then support the children, you know, or provide more information to children on how to keep safe while they're online. What are they looking at? And in the event that I'm encountered with a situation of unsafety online, where do I report? Okay, I'm talking about liaising with colleagues like the Uganda Child Helpline. I don't know if it's part of the training, but I'm thinking this is something that should be for children. Otherwise, you don't want a situation where parents are telling us, you know, you're opening up all these platforms for our children, and this is what's happening. This is what my child is looking at. This is what they're doing. Is this what I sent them to the, you know, to MIL4KIDS to learn about? So let's start to think about how we integrate that into the curriculum and how we work with those other partners. It's there? Okay. And so we, you know, I'm assuming then we are giving them information on where they can report in case of such instances, that is the Child Helpline, and liaising with colleagues to make sure that we're keeping our children safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hadija. Abbas, while you fix the microphone, let's have Kamanzi say something.
Okay, thank you so much. To add on her point, as we empower children to participate in media, then we also need to empower parents because they have to regulate these children. National Child Helpline, the South 116. And there is a way how these lockdowns, especially that it's now 77 weeks that children are still home. There is a way how it has unmasked us, like we are naked. Yeah, we are very naked as Ugandans and we should be ashamed. Because as we talk now, more than 100,000 girls are pregnant. In this fourth industrial revolution era, it's a total shame. What I wanted to add is online sexual exploitation and abuse of children. It's very rampant now. I last got information from the Child Helpline last year, but in a period of 3 months, they had reported more than 149 cases. Why? Because children are studying on phones, they have what? They're on Facebook. You as a parent, when you buy a phone, you just give the child, you don't know what the child does with that phone. And it's very dangerous. They shared with me one of the cases, maybe if I can do it in a few seconds. I don't know whether you understand what online child sexual exploitation is. Like, this is where children are lured into sharing sexual related stuff. It might be pictures, it might be videos, it's very dangerous stuff. They shared with me one case of a 14-year-old. Of course, after closing schools, they were home. And now a parent was working from somewhere because of the lockdown. 9-year-old. Well, pretending to be maybe a 19 or an 18-year-old. So he calls the lady, love you, what? They start. The man gets all the information about the child, including the parents, what, then determined everything, like the family background, what does your parent do? And the family was somehow rich. So the guy was like, I have these ones. So what this guy did, they made an appointment with the girl. And the guy came home. The 49-year-old came home after sharing everything, naked pictures, telephone contacts, videos, everything. So when this man came home, the girl was like, but I'm not expecting you. I'm expecting someone young, what? The guy threatened. The girl was like, I'm anything. I'm going to report you to the what? To your parents. So the child gave up. This guy defiled the child, a 49-year, defiled the 14-year-old girl, and also recorded. That was the worst part of it. Recorded the video. After recording, he shared the video with the parents and took off with the car. He was caught at the border at Mutukula, leaving the country. That's how dangerous it is. It's just beyond empowering children, but we also need to ensure that they are safe online. And that can be done through empowering parents. And I think one of the challenges as to why we are seeing all this is that parents are, there is a new disease, and I may call it TB. They are too busy for their children. They don't give them time. They are busy looking for money, looking for what? And that's why we are going to lose the whole generation, though we still have chance. That's it, thank you.
Thank you very much, Kamanzi, for sharing that disturbing story, but very relevant for this conversation. And, you know, on that note, just for all of us who might not know, the helpline for children, as provided by the Ministry of Gender, is 116. Is it 116?
Yeah,
116. 116. Please tell your children, I've actually tried it before and it works. So please, just note it down somewhere and you can give it to your children in case they run into any problems. They can use that helpline. Khadija.
Yeah, thank you so much. For me, can I ask that we clap for DW and MCI once again? You know, I am saying this because these are questions that have been around and no one was asking. You know, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when I had just quit mainstream media and exposed now to children work, there is a lot that I would come across and I'm like, but oh God, as a journalist, what did I do at that point in time? But you also notice that there is lack of knowledge, or some things just pass and we don't notice. Joseph raises something very important on the kind of content that children are exposed to, but also having a framework. You know, sometimes until we have something that is binding, it is hard to get to where we want. We at High Sound for Children were doing was going to media houses, because we noticed maybe the other bigger policies harder. But we started visiting media houses, speaking to newsrooms. We went to NBS, we went to Daily Monitor, and we were talking to editors about, do you ever question the kind of content that you put out? Do you ever think about if a child is watching this with their children? Because it is a fact that we watch TV with our children. So what kind of content are the children exposed to? Do you ever think about it? And in our deliberations, you could notice that, hey, Hadija, you know, the world is so fast. We had no thought about that. So these are discussions that we need to hold across the board. As we also do this, we need to take on the policy bit of it. Good enough we have media representatives here. There is a start to everything. You know, before when I was talking, people would just say, oh, idle, Hadija. I think you're very idle these days. But I am happy that people are now waking up to notice that content has a huge impact on the lives of children. Children consume a lot of media, and what they consume think it's like 100% factual. That's why I am happy that we are unpacking media for children. They will be able to tell what is right, what is wrong, what do I do, you know, how can I contribute, how do I tell my story? And as we do this, I continue to emphasize child participation. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, show of hands just to see how many more people we have.
We have
like
one, and
something.
then there's one on Zoom as well. Or two.
Two on Zoom.
Oh, three.
Okay, three people. So before you speak, just to let the panelists know, I know we had expected to have closed by now, but I'm going to come back to you at the end of the three questions or comments that are coming, just so you can share after listening to all the comments that have come from the floor, but also after the entire conversation we've had. Where do we go from here? So if you can think on that as we plan to close. Joseph.
Thank you very much, Josephine. The question you've asked your panelists is the point I wanted to come on over.
I'm a prophet, Joseph.
I've never doubted that. So the question is, we all almost agree that we need to make the media safe. Not only the curriculum we put out, but make the media safe for the children. And looking and listening to all of you guys in this room, you form a huge constituency to be change agents, to initiate the change that we desire to make sure the media is safe for the kids. For starters, as you put together the curriculum, I had Mariam from DW talking of radio for the kids. Good start, but let's go where the kids are already hooked. And you forgive me, I will not talk so much about online and all that, because I know the percentages of kids who access online and the percentage of kids that we have in Uganda. Majority of our kids, the biggest media they consume is radio. Let's start by making radio safe for kids. And it doesn't take so much. It takes interest, it takes the drive, it takes a joint voice that will speak. Away from KFM, where I spend my 8 to 5, I'm part of another constituency, the National Association of Broadcasters. You already have me there as your representative. So when you come knocking the door, you find somebody on whom we are on the same page. Let's take an initiative. Let's change the media. You're looking at all of you guys in here. We all have kids, or we are looking at having kids. So we want our kids who are already born to be in a safe place. those who are yet to arrive to be in a much safer place than and not experience all these things that we're going through. If we leave this work to only MCI, DW, UNICEF, and you report and raising voices, not much will be done. If we're all parents, we all were kids at one time, we're all interested in a safe community for kids. So let's put our efforts together. Let's be the change agents and look for the change and make the change we want to see. Thank you.
Joseph, before you switch off the microphone, Joseph from KFM, whose target audience is not children, I just wanted to ask you, how do we make radio safe for kids? It would be nice to have also from the rest of the participants who are going to speak, maybe points on the way forward. How do we go from here? And in saying that, so if you speak about making radio safe, how do we do it? It would be nice to hear your thoughts.
One, I'll start from something that we've just been making noise. It's not because they saw something and they were up in arms. They were they had something to back them up. There's what we call the minimum broadcasting standards. And in the minimum broadcasting standards, there is content which is suitable for kids. And there are times, even if you're not targeting kids, even if you're speaking to 25 to 35, there's content you can't put on air at a certain time where kids are presumed to be listening, to be awake, or without their parents. If we push and make sure we petition the regulator to make sure every broadcaster observes those minimum broadcasting standards, at least you can be sure between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. that content would be safe for kids. Yes? Were you asking, Josephine?
His attention because I wanted to whisper something to her.
Oh,
please.
Sorry. So that's one of the things we can do. Let's look at those minimum broadcasting standards. The document is available on the UCC website. You can easily pick it up. And then the change agents who will come out of this group, you can just go, pick up those points, write a petition to the regulator. And just that one will be tasked everybody across the media. So that, I'll give you an example. There's one song, okay, let me hope it's not offensive to anybody. It's one of the most trending songs, I think by Kiddy or something. Says, girl, come, bend over, or something like that. Yeah, I can see he's shaking his head, he knows it. That song, you hear it blaring out at 6 a.m. and the kids are home. I mean, there's another song that is making rounds, alcohol. That's why I drink my alcohol. It makes me take away all that trouble and all that. And well, you're pumping that into the ears of the kids. You know, one of the things which you are saying as a responsible broadcaster, what are you doing? I said, you know what, the time when we don't advertise alcohol, we will not play a song praising alcohol. So there are many things which are already in the existing legislations which we can use and point out and make sure we push the broadcasters to do the basic thing. It's very basic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Who's speaking next? Yes.
Hello. Thank you very much. The moderator and members present. My name is Andrew Collins Matovo. I'm a head teacher of MIL4KIDS schools. And I'm here, one, to appreciate all the stakeholders in this program. Can we give them an applause, really? DW and the rest, thank you very much for thinking about this. Members here, I'm not the CEO, but I think I need to say that we are ready to go with this program. The next time, thank you for that. Why am I thinking that we are ready to go? Because all that we are talking about now is what we need. Is what we need in the child of the 21st century. When I look at the program of media and information literacy, it is helping to develop the 5 C's. I hope you are aware of the 5 C's. Creativity, communication, we are developing critical thinking, coordination, and above all, there is also curiosity. These days they're adding even a computer. You get? So this program is going to help, one, to develop all the 5 C's in the children, to We need it. Dear organizers, I think the next time we have a gathering here, it should have another group of stakeholders. Those are the school administrators. Yes? We also need a gathering having the teachers, because they're the ones to implement this program in the schools. You cannot give out what you don't have. True? So we need to help the teachers, take them through some sessions, then they should be able to disseminate this information. There is a challenge I got in the school where I work. I had a similar dream. Then I was like, let's start a young journalists club. We started it in the school. But the challenge I got was our school has about 70% of the students are boarders. So when we told them, you know, every Friday on assembly, we have to present news, you have to do this, you have to do the reporting, the exposure element came in. What are they reporting? You get? So somebody, you know, time came that the news was boring. So and so walked around, then fell down, you know, because you get the point. They lacked exposure because they were really in almost the same environment 24/7. So what they resorted to was to get newspapers from the day scholars. They read out stories. They then come and retell the stories. But we are looking at originality, isn't it? I'll need to be guided. How can I help to develop this? In a school where I have a bigger percentage of the students in boarding, and we want to train them reporting original news or any kind of information. So I should be guided on that. Then the programs. Today we hear the government impacting a lot of money in teaching patriotism, isn't it? Today you cannot teach me patriotism. Can you? You can't. But if we have these programs through the children, I think today children receive, can I call it new news than I do. That is obvious, isn't it? An accident, that is an obvious, you get? So and so has been caught and taken in to a police cell, you know, that is what we expect during certain seasons, you get? So I'm not so much a consumer of news today as would be a child. Children still have a lot of time to consume whatever comes. As a government official here, zero programs of patriotism, I think, would have them through the children. And when a child listens to a program through a peer, he or she takes it in. You get? So there are some programs I think we need now to have them go through. So
I'll just give you a few more seconds.
Mr. Mpindi, lobby the government. We should have some of the government programs disseminated through this program that is being thought about. The last is a small question to Madam there. I've not had a copy of the curriculum yet, but I hope it is a balanced curriculum. Hope it is an inclusive curriculum. Are we looking at all the children? Are we considering the disabilities some children have? Are we training only children who can speak, who have the eyes to read through the curriculum? Hope you have thought about the curriculum balance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was one of the questions I asked Marion in preparation on whether children with special needs were considered, and she assured me they were, but also what we're going to do, she'll respond to your questions as she makes her summary remarks. So for now, let's hear from Prosi for her comment or her question. Prosi is joining us online. Prosi, I'll just give you a minute for your question or comment. Prosi?
Thank you very much, Josephine and everyone. I hope I'm loud and clear. Sometimes there are internet connection issues.
You're loud and clear.
Oh, thank you. So I'm really excited and congratulate MCI for launching this MIL4KIDS curriculum. And I'd earlier put a comment first-hand experience on how media can affect the choices that our children make. And I've seen this with my own children and the way we have really navigated around it. But I also wanted to just throw more light on the safety issues that come in for our children. Safety issues cannot be left one way, either to content creators or the platforms. It's something that we need to handle jointly, because what we need to understand also is that our children are very curious. Whether online or offline, they're going to be looking for stuff that they feel they're interested in. They have very inquisitive minds, so they're learning each and every day. And it's not going to be that either, even if you legislate and say let's have content on TV at certain times, that's not enough. It's going to come back to us as parents, but also continuous engagement with each and every stakeholder. Let's engage, say, the content creators, houses, but let's also engage the parents and the children themselves as well. I think what we need to do is to be very open with our children and tell them, look here, there is bad content that you're going to come across, but there is also good stuff that you're going to come across as you navigate either online or the TVs or anything, and then help them to identify. And I think that's the real essence of the MIL curriculum, to help a child be able to critically navigate these platforms and the content that they come across. In that way, we shall be helping all sides. We shall be helping ourselves as parents, but also the children, because it's about the children. The content creator has a reason why they create content in a certain way. The advertiser also has a reason why they're structuring their advert in a certain way. But if the kid has the ability to look at these issues and then pick out what is wrong and what is right, I think that's the right way to go. So once again, thank you. I was given 1 minute, but this is a very interesting topic that we could talk like for the whole day. I'm really happy to be part of the conversation.
Thank you so much, Percy. And thank you to everybody online that joined us for this conversation. So I'm going to allow for one person. Okay, please, 1 minute.
Thank you very much. My name is Sarah Luanga. I'm not into any organization for children, but I'm a mother. My request is very simple. Someone requested for a radio station for the kids. So I was also thinking that just like, NTV, I think, has Spark TV for those that are not so English. Then NBS has Sanyuka and other stations. I was thinking that these kids don't just need a certain period of time for them to watch their content, but at least come up with a station that is all about kids, that they have their news, they have their entertainment, they have their lessons on that particular station, because even the times, just the adverts, I have a teenager, turned a teenager, I have a 4-year-old and I have an 11-year-old, but one time we were watching TV and there's a particular advert about family planning. So my 11-year-old, I think that time was about 9 or 8, he asked me, so he calls me Mama, what do you use? I really didn't have an answer. I didn't know what to say. My 4-year-old, actually, I think probably might get into media. He's the only one who normally gives, if I've missed the news, he always gives me a recap of what happened in the news, surprisingly. So please consider the 4 years, 5s, they are also very curious. So my request is just that the TV, because the Western world, they have the cartoons and what, these kids spend a lot of time on those channels. But if we could come up with something that is good for the child in the rural area, the child in Kampala, because I'm sure the child in Tinda might have some different views from a child in Kachiri or a child in Wakiso. That is not a long distance. You couldn't call that so rural. So if we could come up, MCI probably would help us, and with all the other media houses. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that submission. It was good to hear from a parent with no affiliation at all, joining us for the conversation and giving a parent's perspective. I'm going to ask us to close. So I'm going to start from Moses. In your closing remarks, perhaps to sum up whatever you would like to take away from what people on the floor say, but also just to respond to my question on where do we go from here. And I know it's a lot to ask, but I'll give you 1.5 minutes to do that. A TV story is about 1 minute and 30 seconds. So I think you can do a good job
and its
at that.
Impact is worth more than that.
Correct.
Okay. Now, thank you very much. I've just summarized a few points with my parting notes for this whole idea and discussion. One, I want to respond to, before I get to this, respond to my colleague, my fellow teacher there, that asked to be guided about boarding scholars, news, how do you engage them with this idea? I think we shall keep cutting our coat according to the cloth. Because with boarding scholars, the whole thing of media is not what news do they have. There are other aspects of how do you understand what you listen to? How do you understand what you find out? Even using pre-recorded stories and picking their perspective on how they interpret this information. I don't know whether that suggests so much into how best you can handle that. Then, what next? This is what I think. One, MCI has done a lot in developing this curriculum. Now, I want to tell you this. If you've developed a curriculum, we shall only be remembering you for developing the curriculum, which is the greatest work you've done. You're not going to control how much your curriculum is going to do, because it is going to do very many things that you cannot even have control over. So how best do we multiply it? This is what I think. One, I think if we reach out now, because reaching out to children, this is a smaller number. We're going to take long to multiply children. By the time children reach out to fellow children, it's going to take years. It's going to take a bigger time. What if we also reach out to schools? Speak to different administrators of schools. I know many will not understand, but now you now have to school them about this whole idea and the curriculum. The curriculum is in place. Why don't we get a teacher or 2 or 3 in a school that can handle? Now, the Ministry of Health and Education have come together to work on COVID. They're saying in the new curriculum, every lesson, a teacher has to talk about COVID. A teacher has to talk about how can we control? What do we need to know more about COVID? We also need this so much. Media and information literacy is also needed at a time that children have been included up in this information world that we have not controlled the last 2 years. So I think the next 3 years are more important for this curriculum to be working out. Then the other thing is, yes, finally, as I conclude, as we target the school-going children from the schools, could we have the hub now for the ones in the slums down there? Because if we have targeted the school-going children from schools and go to them there with their teachers to help us, what about these ones who are not going to schools? We can use now the hub to reach out on a daily. because these need the information even more. They don't know anything about the right information. All they know is what I have heard. You know, if you move down to those slums, you'll get to know what I'm talking about. Lastly, I'll also conclude with the ECD fellow that talked about developing for the little ones. Yes, we are now also going to keep looking at our innovators. You have shown us the light, we have to stick to you. We know, just like you have developed the one for this age group, even the little ones you can, and we shall be waiting. We are with you in support of this. Then lastly, as I close.
That is 3 lastlies.
Of course. Exactly. This is the final one. Let us not look at this whole idea as a small one. You know, teachers speak, and if you don't limit them, they will go forever. Let us not think this whole idea is small. Let us not think this idea is in a hub in Kabalagala at Rupati Mall, and we shall be expanding depending on what we already have. We have people that can take us very far. The government, the policymakers, we need to find ways of penetrating into the policymakers and the Ministry of Education. If I said anything more than that, I think I'd be lying to myself. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.
Thank you very much, Moses. Kamanzi, I'll come to you next. Please, your finally should be finally. I'll give you 1.5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. To start with, I first commend Media Challenge Initiative and partners. I think this is a very good start, and there is hope for the Ugandan child. Then what next from here? Someone talked about how can we make radio safe for children. I think for us, you're already on the way in regards to answering that question, because we are running a campaign of the capacity of media practitioners on media reporting and child-friendly ethic reporting. And so far we've already trained like for 4 regions, and we are moving out next week to another region. And still it's a good area for partnership. Then still I want to add on his point of engaging the Ministry of Education and Sports. If we can convince them and they also incorporate this curriculum in the mainstream curriculum of education, then it will be better. Then maybe lastly, also we need to make a shift. Currently, in maybe if I'm to say 80% of the media houses only report child abuse. But when do you report on child rights and responsibilities? Because for us as NCA, we believe that empowerment is the best way for child protection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kamanzi. We'll just give him a clap for 1.5 minutes. Coach, but I'll come to you next.
Thank you so much. Firstly, I would like to commend everyone for all these great ideas and suggestions. I think some of the things you have said is music to our ears when we think about children. I'll try to follow a good example of a colleague for 1.5 minutes. I think there are maybe 4 things that could help us to take to the next step. One is the approach to be holistic, and what we heard a lot, this holistic nature includes the issue of safety, both online and offline. The issues of violence are huge in our country. So really holistic approach to looking, and this may also include a different age group. I think, as I said, in our context, we have 12-year-old going to primary school. So I think, is this curriculum for him or her or not? That's, I think, the question we need to answer. So it's not, age can be an ECD children, of course. The second is scale. I think let's look big. What you said, 100,000 of children, 200,000 of children. Often when we look at the projects based on the scope, what we have organization, we limit ourselves. But when we look big, I'm sure opportunities will come. And I think this audience is telling us that together we are strong. And we will be happy to continue this dialogue and be part of this great team. Number 3 is and innovation is not only technology. When we go to rural areas, we need to innovate, as Marian was saying, how we can make it work in any context. And I truly believe it is possible. And I see in the name of MCI, it's a challenge. Challenge is usually when you take up a challenge and innovate, you can respond to any challenge you want. I think that's thinking out of the box should be part of our approach. And lastly, I think anchoring. And in anchoring, I would just repeat what colleagues said. Ministry of Education, and we work with the colleagues that are doing really great efforts in these difficult times. Teachers, we are in your debt. It's thanks to you that we are who we are, and children in the country will develop. So where the curriculum will be anchored is really a key part. Be it school clubs, your clubs. I think that can help taking it further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Marian, I'll come to you last but not least, also because I know you're part of MCI, and so if you keep us here, we shall not be happy with you.
Thank you, Josephine. Mine is very simple. First, I want to thank the team that has really gone through the testing of the curriculum, but also the training, and also DW Academy, as well as Media Challenge, that has given us this platform. It's really important that I say that. What I wanted to answer on how to help schools. So journalism is really not about news. And where MIL comes in is that we want to just change the mindset of so many things that many young kids grow up thinking. Journalism is someone going on radio or TV and reading news. It's beyond that. There is fact-checking, like people have said. There is radio journalism. There is solutions journalism that people or many young kids don't even know about. And so just being able to help kids navigate the media, but also ably tell lies from truth, and also just understand that they are very big contributors to media is important, and that's where MIL comes in. So as I conclude is that the next steps for us is open as each and every individual in this room says or sets out to do. As MIL multipliers, we are ready, like I said, to really work with whoever is available to support the program. And we have different activities like a TV show, like has been mentioned, a radio studio, a radio show, or a radio station. We are looking at boot camps for both parents and children. We take you away for just a weekend with your kid. We go there and we see, are you even learning media, or the kid is out like being smart or things like that? But just really incorporating fun and making sure that either MIL goes into schools or a MIL policy, anything that we are all of us open to doing. So I can't put us.
Thank you. And now one more hearty hand clap for Gabby over there for her participation. All right, I would like to hand over to the MC. Thank you so much for your participation in this conversation, and thank you all the panelists for your insights that have given us a lot to think about, but also to act on. The MC, please, you can have your seats.
Thank you so much, Josephine and the panelists. This was a very, very beautiful conversation, and we hope that it moves on from here and becomes action, not just words, but we could put in more action after here. So we are now going to close. I'll just invite Mr. Abbas Mpindi to come and close, and then we can go and have lunch. In case you want to use the washrooms, it's just on my right-hand side. So you use that door over there and then take a right, and you will be looking at the washrooms. And then we will show you where you came in from. There's a dining hall where we'll be having our lunch from. Thank you so much. See you very soon.
Thank you so much, Bella. I will keep this very brief. On behalf of my team, MCI, I would like to thank each and every one of you, parents, partners, schools that have come here, and all of you, the way you've trusted us, especially parents trusting us with these children. In terms of the next steps, I'm going to invite some of the trainers to stand near the curriculum, so that if you have any questions, you can please ask. We will also share with you a presentation that gives a highlight of the curriculum, because we won't be able to give it now, considering that it is only accessible to someone who has gone through the training. So, but the other conversation that we can kickstart now is for those organizations that are interested in training either people within your organization or a school, we can start from there to see how we can extend that service. But we will be able to share the key highlights of the curriculum, and you'll be able to see each and every detail of it. And then I'll make sure we follow up on each one of you, especially organizations that are working with children, to plan a way forward with all these discussions that we've had. Otherwise, I am the only person standing in between you and lunch, and you and your next journeys. Journey masses, enjoy lunch, and DJ, let's have some lunch music. Thank you.